This week on Round 2 podcast, I sat down with Mike Begg, co-founder and CEO of AMZ Advisors. What started out as a dabble in Kindle publishing has turned into a full-service e-commerce consultancy focused on creating growth opportunities for brands, manufacturers, and private labels across the world. Mike is an expert in all things e-commerce and on how everything at Amazon works. Talking with him all about it was so much fun. If you're curious about growing your e-commerce business or just about e-commerce in general, this episode is definitely for you. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to my channel, like, comment, let me know what you think. Love it. Love having you here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will talk to you next week. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Round 2 podcast. I am your host, Nikki Corbett, and I am excited to have this conversation today with Mike Begg. He is an expert in e-commerce, and he is the co-founder and CEO of AMZ Advisors. Mike, welcome to the Round 2 podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well, Nikki. Thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be talking with you.
You bet. So I did a little research on you and your company, kind of saw how you guys got started with doing Kindle publishing, and then you learned more about Amazon and ended up in this e-commerce world. So I'm just going to jump right into the e-commerce piece. I certainly want to hear your whole story, but I feel like e-commerce is something that I am bombarded with on Instagram as far as ads go, and people saying like, oh, I'm making, hundreds of thousands of dollars and it's so easy, and I just don't buy it. So tell me the real deal.
It is that easy to make money online. Everything's a little bit more competitive, I'd say, than when I started, but there are a lot of different opportunities, and obviously platforms present a really good opportunity, like Amazon. Another big platform right now is TikTok, because there's already people there already paying attention, so it's easy to sell that way. But you can also build brands from scratch and start running ads on Meta and TikTok and wherever else to drive people to a Shopify store, for example. So there's a lot of different options, a lot of different ways to sell in e-commerce depending on what your skill set is, and that's really what I think is the interesting thing, is that so many different people coming from so many different backgrounds are able to start making money online doing that.
So I think what I meant more by saying it was easy is that, people make it sound like you can just, put your email into a website and then all of a sudden you're a millionaire. And I know it's not that easy. I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into getting things up and rolling, learning ads, SEO, all of that.
Yeah, there is a lot. The first one usually starts, depends whether you have a digital or a physical product, but usually if you have a physical product, the first part is figuring out your manufacturing, where you're going to be buying product, what you're going to be selling. That in itself, its own challenge. You can figure it out as a first timer, but there's definitely a learning curve there as well. We certainly experienced it in our time, in our story. But yeah, that's the first obstacle most brands have to come across. And then comes the SEO and paid advertising and marketing. That's a little bit faster to learn, but still it's important to really understand what you're doing to get the best results.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm in the SEO space right now, trying to make sure I've got everything tagged correctly and keywords and all of that for this podcast. So my learning curve has definitely been going strong there.
Yeah, that's true. We had to learn all that for building the business, as well as like actual Google SEO versus Amazon SEO, because there's a big difference between the two. But yeah, you're constantly going to be learning anytime you're building any project on your own or anything that's digital or physical. There's always something to learn.
Okay. Yep, definitely. So tell me a little bit about, when you guys realized that Amazon was a spot that you could do something really big with.
Yeah, so this was a long time ago now. This is probably about 10 years ago or more. So out of college, I started working at Deloitte. I left Deloitte, went to Sears. And at the time I was working at Sears, I was working in the real estate group. And while I was in the real estate group, I saw Amazon come across and make an offer to buy one of our buildings. And that really struck me as strange, because why would Amazon want to buy a building of Sears? It didn't make sense, because Sears being a big box, Amazon being online retailer, they didn't really align. And once I started digging into it more, I learned that they were turning it into a warehouse. Yeah. So that's when I figured out that you could sell products online on Amazon. And from there, myself and my two partners, we kind of just continued snowballing different ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Ebooks was the first one. It was the
Yeah.
easiest startup. Essentially, we paid a ghostwriter to write a book. We paid a
Mm-hmm.
graphic designer to put a cover on it. We packaged it together, sold it on Amazon, and we still sell those. We still make money to this day from that. So
Nice.
it's kind of interesting in that way. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
perpetual over time.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, while we were kind of learning more about how to start selling more books, how to start doing better, we started figuring out you could sell physical products.
Yeah.
And that's where things started getting interesting, because we stumbled onto an idea called retail arbitrage, which was essentially go into your local Walmart, your local Target, buying whatever you could on clearance, turning around and flipping it on Amazon.
Yeah.
That really helped us build the first like $10,000-$15,000 in the business. And
now, when you were doing that,
were
you guys like actually having to ship those products yourself, or did you buy them at Target or Walmart or wherever and then take them to an Amazon warehouse and then they did that for you?
Yeah. So what we did was we went to Amazon, we went to Target, we went to Walmart, bought everything up, packaged it into a box, and then sent it to Amazon's warehouse. So they handle all the fulfillment, they handle everything. Once it's in Amazon's warehouse, it has the Prime badge, which makes it like that much more attractive to consumers. So we were selling products, competing with other sellers, but selling on listings that were selling well. And that kind of really helped us get those products going. And we actually turned most of that inventory pretty quick. There's only a few items that never sold.
Okay. Interesting. So, but how long is something like that sustainable though, right?
It is sustainable. I mean, people do that. There's actually people that do that for a living. Yeah.
Okay.
There's people that
so
make
they're just going around to Targets all day.
Yeah. There's people that make 6 figures a year in the U.S. doing that.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that, but it's interesting for many people. The other thing they do many times is they can also buy pallets of products that are returned to Amazon or returned to Walmart or Target or whatever, and then you can sell what's ever on the pallet again. So there's a lot of different options there, but yeah, it's not retail arbitrage is cool. It's fun. It's exciting to see the sales, but it is time consuming because you're shopping at the end of the day. You're going to these different stores, and that takes time. And then I think once we got beyond that, we figured out that we can start importing product from China. So what we did is we started a art supply brand called Crown Art. It was an awesome name, awesome logo, and we bought a bunch of different products from China. I think we bought about 1,000 products in total to start with.
Oh wow!
Brought them over again, sent them to Amazon's warehouse, and started selling them. The first day that our brand went live was like it was in December, I guess it was 2014, maybe. It was a long time ago. First day it went live, we sold about 25 units, and we were like, okay, like this actually works, and that's where we kind of just kept going into it.
Were they like white label products where then you guys had to come and like brand them and do something yourself, or were you just saying like we're ordering this and then we're taking the box from when it gets delivered to Amazon?
Yeah, no. So what we were doing was we worked with a manufacturer in China. In a way, it's a private label. We're buying their product. They're putting our packaging on it, and our logo and everything. And then once it arrives, we just kind of check the inventory to make sure nothing's defective. And then if it's all good, we send it off to Amazon.
Okay. Well, that's fun.
And that was essentially how we started. I mean, and during that time, we, being in the art supply space, we're kind of competing against Crayola. And, you learn very quickly when you're competing against a big brand like that. Yeah. And seeing what works and what doesn't work. And we realized that we were doing better than them in a lot of areas. And that's kind of where the idea of AMZ Advisors came from. It was like, hey, a lot of these big brands don't know what they're doing either. We can start an agency to help them sell more online.
Got it. Okay. So how did you first choose art out of all the different things you could have possibly chose? What made you guys choose art supplies?
We spent a lot of time looking for different product ideas. There's a lot of different tools out there you can use for research to kind of get an idea of what sales look like, what the projections are, how much volume. And from that, we found just this category that looked less competitive than some of the others. I mean, in general on Amazon, like electronics, supplements, those are all extremely complicated or extremely difficult categories to sell in. Other categories like apparel are a pain because there's so many different sizes, SKUs, color variations. Yeah. So we kind of found this little niche market, and we were like, all right, this is good. We can focus on this and start making money there. And it worked.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about when you said clothes, the first thing that popped into my mind was returns, right? You order something and someone tries it on and they're like, oh, it doesn't fit or I don't like it, send it back.
Yeah, I mean, that's another big issue with apparels. I think that's why, in general, like still as an agency, we stay away from apparel because it is so complicated. The return levels are really high. A lot of times the products come back damaged, so you can't you can't even sell them. So you really have to have a good handle on your manufacturing and your supply chain. Otherwise, your costs are just going to eat away your margin instantly with every single return. So
yeah, for sure.
Again, that's kind of why we shifted our strategy, focusing on products that we're not going to be hopefully returned as much, that we're going to work well and not require us to invest in so many different SKUs and so much different.
Now, when going with this art, did you guys have to, with this art supplies brand, did you guys have to kind of test different price points? You said you ordered about 1,000 different items. So were you checking out different price points? Because I would imagine that some things, maybe you order something and even if I don't love it, if it was maybe $10, $15, I might be like, well, I don't love it, but I like it enough. I'll keep it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something we considered, like in general, when you look at price points, products that have lower price points generally convert more, for the same reason you just said, oh, it's $15, like whatever, I'll buy it. And if I like it, I like it. If not, then whatever. So those types of products convert really well, but it's also really tough to make a solid margin on there. At the other end of the spectrum, if you're pricing over $100, that's a little bit more challenging. It's not going to convert as much. It's generally going to be a very specific audience that's looking for that product, or maybe it's like a really well-known brand, and that makes that a little bit more difficult as well. So we kind of found ourselves like a sweet spot in the middle. I think our products were around $25-$30. Okay. And yeah, at that price point, we were doing pretty well.
Okay. So something you said when we first started talking, you said FBA. And I know that stands for Fulfilled by Amazon, but I know I also had to learn that. So it's not just like common knowledge amongst folks. So will you explain a little bit the difference between FBA, between drop shipping, any of the other different categories, just for anyone who's listening that wants to learn about possibly diving into this world?
For sure, yeah. So there's a few different fulfillment methods for e-commerce. I mean, FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, is essentially you send your product to Amazon's warehouses. Amazon has a massive warehouse network in the US. They also have a warehouse and distribution program now, so they can actually hold massive supplies of inventory for large retailers and things like that. So that's another interesting angle that they've added over time. But generally, the benefit of that is that once your inventory is at Amazon, they kind of distribute it to the different warehouses based on where they think it needs to be. And that's makes
why sometimes you can get something like in 3 hours versus 2 days.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And, it's crazy how they actually figure out where all the inventory goes. It's all based on
I can only imagine
purchase trends based on geographic orders and zip codes, like all this crazy data that they use. But in general, it's interesting because it makes it a lot easier for you as a seller, because the customer generally has a better experience. It leads to less likelihood of them sending a return or something like that would be a problem for you. Now, on the other hand, there's also what we call fulfillment by merchant, or it's the same name Amazon uses as well. And that's essentially you send it from your own warehouse, or you send it from your own house. Okay. Now, there are partners similar to Amazon's fulfillment network called 3PL companies. 3PLs are essentially fulfillment providers. You can send inventory to them as well, and they can also send it out as they get orders. Most of them integrate with all the major platforms, so that's usually pretty seamless. But you could also send from your own house or your own garage or storage unit or whatever it is. That is generally not, at least on the Amazon platform, it's generally not as competitive with the other products that are in FBA, because you don't have the Prime badge. Shipping generally takes longer. If you do want the Prime badge, you have to pay for what's called Seller Fulfilled Prime, and the cost of that shipping is higher. So it just kind of makes it, it kind of puts you at a disadvantage as a seller if you're going to fulfill from your own warehouse, at least on Amazon. Sure. If you're selling through Instagram or Etsy or whatever other platform, maybe it doesn't matter as much, but when you're looking at Amazon, it definitely does. And then finally, you mentioned drop shipping. Drop shipping is a little bit different in that you don't actually ever hold the inventory. You're just placing an order for the inventory once an order comes in. So you might partner with some warehouse or some manufacturer or distributor that is selling, I don't know, a pet product or whatever, a dog toy, let's say. And then you might run ads on Instagram, you might run ads on TikTok, you might put the product up on Amazon, although that's a little bit more challenging. And as an order comes in, you are purchasing that unit directly from the factory or from the distributor, and they are sending out the inventory to the end consumer. So drop shipping is a lot less capital intensive, but it's also not really, in my opinion, it's not really that scalable. I know a lot of people have been very successful in it, but it is very difficult to compete with some of these platforms that have incredibly fast shipping times. That have really high customer preference compared to your Instagram page or your Etsy store or wherever you're trying to sell it.
No, I asked specifically about drop shipping because I fear I might have fallen victim to a drop shipping course a while back. And I mean, everything I learned from it was, wow, this is not as easy as this guy is making it sound to be. And also from a volume perspective, given that, he was like, you have to make a spreadsheet, and, when you get orders come in, you want to log all of your orders, and you want to do this and you want to do that. And I'm thinking like, well, what if you got to a point where you had like 500 orders a day? It's like, that's a lot of manual labor on, someone's side. And so anyway, I was like, I was a little disheartened after that, because I was like, you know what, this is definitely not something. And then even finding the products was just all of these different ways. I was like, this is actually really tough. So
yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be the only one that's done that before. I think a lot of people have been interested in drop shipping because it does seem so easy. You don't have to you don't need a lot of money, I guess, to start, but you do need a lot of time. And that's kind of the challenge. Is like a lot of people underestimate how much work you have to put into it.
Well, I mean, I think, I think a lot of things right now, people are like, oh my gosh, like, look at what I'm doing. And I'm making, 50 grand a month. And you're like, wow. And they're like, it's so easy. I just go and I do this. But then when you actually like dig into it, it's like, there's a lot of work that went on that back end. Like, I was reading on your guys' website and you talked about how you guys went down to South Carolina and lived in the middle of nowhere and, eat, slept, and breathed your business for 4 months straight without doing anything. And it's like, that's what you have to do to figure it out.
I mean, you kind of have to really get started on something. And, that was a fun time. We definitely put in a lot of work.
Yeah.
But if you want anything to grow, I think you have to put in the effort, whether you're going to be a content creator on, whatever platform, you need to put out more content to be successful, and all that takes time. So it's not easy to kind of be in any entrepreneurial space. I think some gurus try to sell certain programs as easier than they actually are.
Definitely. So I feel like your story is very layered with just all these different layers and types of entrepreneurship, that you kind of just started off with one thing and thought, oh, okay, wait, we can do this. And okay, let's do this now. Let's do this now. Let's do this now. So tell me about AMZ Advisors and what you guys started out. What was the original idea and where are you now?
Yeah, I mean, the original idea was to help brands with their marketing. When we looked back at what we were doing really well as sellers, we realized that we were really strong in marketing and sales and actually selling the product. Where we were a little bit more weak was on manufacturing and product inventory management.
Okay.
So we kind of just played to our strengths with AMZ Advisors. We were like, let's help other brands start marketing better. And there was a lot of demand for it in the beginning because there were not a lot of companies out there. So we kind of hit it at the right time as well. So we also got a little bit lucky. From the start, we were working with some really big brands. We were working with Burt's Bees, Neff Headwear, Plackers, Rembrandt Whitening, multi-billion-dollar companies, and that really helped us learn a lot faster as well because we had a much bigger advertising budget. We were doing sales volumes that were inconceivable for us at the time,
right?
And that was the way we kind of learned. We kind of just continued to grow that. Now, where we are today, we continue to be in the Amazon space, mainly focused on that, but we offer additional services related to Amazon. I mean, Amazon has become more and more complex. We started the company in 2015, 2016, and now we offer affiliate marketing, paid advertising management, full channel management, all these different services that help sellers drive more sales, whether it's coming from people on Amazon or people coming from off of Amazon and driving that traffic to Amazon to buy the product.
Got it. So what percentage of your business would you say is existing brands versus somebody brand new who walks in and is like, hey, I have this idea?
I would say 100% of our business is existing brands.
Okay.
No, there are plenty of people out there to help people launch and get going, but it's just a very difficult market to get into or it's a very difficult client to service as an agency because it takes a lot of time to get these brands going. I mean, the same thing we were just talking about, like takes a lot of time to do anything.
Yeah.
As an agency or as a consultant, even, you need to put a lot of time and effort into helping these sellers understand what they need to do and how they need to launch the product, how to make sure everything's correct. And it's also difficult for the sellers, unless they're very well capitalized, to actually pay something that makes sense for you as the agency owner. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there to kind of support those types of sellers. There are a lot of groups, Facebook groups, community groups, membership groups, all that type of stuff to provide tips and insights, but it's less hand holding and more just advice and general ideas that people are working with. So we at this point have really gone past that. Most of the brands we're working with are doing between 5 and 20 million on Amazon. So we kind of,
that's amazing,
have left that part behind.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And are you working with businesses that are like all types of products, or do you guys have specific businesses that have kind of tended to gravitate towards you?
I mean, we do work with a variety, but like the main categories we work in are health and beauty, supplements, pet supplies, baby products, toys, home and kitchen, garden. Those are like the main types of categories I would say that we're in. Some categories we just avoid completely, like apparel. Apparel is very difficult because of all the different SKUs you need to manage. Electronics is very, very difficult as well because it's very difficult to compete with the Chinese electronics because they're priced so cheaply. And they also do a lot of kind of black hat stuff on the Amazon platform. So it's not really a great market to be in. And we kind of avoid that one, actually.
Okay, interesting. So you mentioned supplements, and that's something that I'm pretty health conscious, and I like to take certain things. And every once in a while, you'll see like a health and wellness influencer say something about oh, don't buy your supplements from Amazon because you'd never know if they're real or if they've been repackaged or whatever. So what would you say to something like that as someone who actually knows the ins and outs of how Amazon works?
It's a tough one. I guess that's multi-layered. First thing I would say is that if you're buying from like a reputable brand, more than likely it's not going to be a problem. Like, for example, we used to work with some very big protein brands that are well known. One is Sun Warrior. It's the largest vegan protein. There's another one called Falcon Protein, which is actually the largest protein in Mexico, and it's been moving to the US. Like, when you're buying from a brand that has high production and has high recognition, you're more than likely safe. Now, if you're buying from like some influencers random, I recommend this brand, and like you go to the page and it has no reviews or like has very few reviews and the reviews aren't great, it's probably a good sign that it's not a good supplement to buy. But I think that applies pretty much anywhere. Like, whether you're talking about Amazon or whether you're talking about a store, like or even any other e-commerce platform, you really don't know what you're getting until you get it. And honestly, like, just working in the supplementation space, I know that even the difference in the ingredients between brands is sometimes very difficult to know, and it's also very difficult to know whether they're doing it accurately. There's very little regulation on it. Like, you have to submit labels, you have to submit ingredients, but like, you really don't know if they're actually hitting those. So it's the same risk you run anywhere, whether you buy supplements in store, whether you buy them online. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you say that, because I have a friend who has a supplement line, and she was telling me one time that there's some significant wiggle room in even just like the labeling, with like the total like calories per serving. She's like, there's a gap where you could say like, oh, it's 150 calories per serving, but it could really be like 180 calories a serving. And I was like, that's kind of insane.
Yeah, and I mean, we've come across other instances in the past where brands have changed ingredients. The original ingredient that they start selling with becomes too expensive, and they start finding a cheaper supplementary ingredient to put in instead. I was like, supplements. I'm saying supplements too many times. To put that in instead. So like, they don't change the ingredients, they don't change the packaging because it's already manufactured and already produced, but they did change the ingredients. So that I've seen happen before too. And like, that's another thing that, obviously shouldn't be allowed, but it happens.
Right, right. So would you say, so actually here's a question. So given you guys are technically, I mean, I would say Amazon experts, is that a fair statement? So do
Yeah.
you guys have folks that at Amazon that you have like connections there where maybe you'll get like an insight into any sort of logistical changes or warehousing changes, or is it pretty much just because you guys sell through Amazon, you get just like an update when every other seller gets an update?
No, I mean, we have partnerships with different areas of Amazon.
Okay.
We have partnerships with their business development team, with their advertising team. We're one of the advanced advertising partners on Amazon, which means that we spend more than 20 million a year on Amazon ads. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we do get insights and access to special events, which is kind of the nice thing. So we do learn a lot more about it. And yeah, it's kind of a testament to like the work we put in. Is like you don't get these special partnerships unless you're actually showing a lot of sales for brands on the platform and a lot of success.
So are you guys still selling your art brand?
No, unfortunately, the art brand fell off. When I said that we were better at the sales than the inventory management, so we ran into an issue with one of our manufacturers. And essentially what happened was we started reaching out to other manufacturers in China. And we told them like how much we wanted to place an order for, which was, first order was 1,000 units. We wanted to place an order for like 10, 15,000 units after that. And then the Chinese manufacturer pretty much took our product, replicated it, and started selling it on Amazon and didn't sell us the product. So they essentially put us out of business very quickly. And that was a big learning curve. That's one of the things that's very difficult about competing with China.
Yeah. So how do you avoid that?
Working with over there.
Yeah. How does somebody avoid that? That seems like it could happen very often.
The easiest way is manufacturing somewhere else.
Okay.
That's the easiest way. If you're going to look at a product that has like some IP, some intellectual property to it, like you've designed a patent or whatever on it. You also have to patent it in China. If you don't own the patent in China, like they don't care about U.S. patents. They're just going to rip them off. So that's like one way you can protect yourself if you really want to manufacture in China. But honestly, like I think you're better off looking at other places. I mean, Mexico is super close to the U.S. for manufacturing. India is also pretty good. You really don't run into the same issues that you see with what you have in China, with people just knocking off products and trying to undercut everyone.
Okay, interesting. Out of curiosity, where were you working? Where in China was your manufacturer? I asked because I lived in China 10 years ago, so I'm always just curious.
That's a good question. I think they were in Guangzhou.
Okay. I figured it was there or somewhere near Shenzhen or...
Yeah, I think it was Guangzou, but I'm not sure. It's been so long at this point, but in general, we avoid China at this point. We mainly manufacture in Mexico for products we sell, or products we're buying inventory for, are usually coming from Mexico.
So what products are you guys selling these days?
So that's a very good question. We actually have a separate company called Go Advance, and what that Go Advance does is actually distribution business. So we focus on helping a lot of brands sell that are not interested in dealing with the Amazon platform themselves. We also get them into the Mexican market. So we bring a lot of U.S. brands into Mexico. We sell products like supplements, beauty supplies, coffee products, a variety of different like categories we're in. It's really just the brands that are interested in it. So that's really where a lot of the focus is on the selling side now. That's kind of a different branch, and really like the marketing side and helping the brands grow is the part that I'm mainly running.
Okay. So, gosh, this is so intriguing because I feel like there's so many, it's like finding out what, you want, what these brands are selling, where is their product coming from, what's the inventory management like, what's the manufacturing like, what's the marketing like, what's the sales cycle like, and then all of the back end network on Amazon. What you said about the warehousing and how they distribute product amongst their warehouses that's just fascinating to me. My house in Sacramento was in a neighborhood, and when I moved in, there were some warehouses across the street, and there were some other ones under construction. And then I quickly learned that the ones that they were just wrapping construction on were Amazon warehouses. And so there were times when I would order something and it would say, like, if you order in the next hour, it'll be at your house by 5:00. And I'm like, I could just walk across the street probably and be like, is my product in here.
Yeah. More than likely, yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing about the distributed network is it makes it a lot easier to get what you want a lot faster.
Yeah.
There are a little bit more challenges as a seller, like figuring out like how to handle the shipments to all the different warehouses, but Amazon does help in some ways with that. It's like once the product is in their warehouse, they'll move it around based on where the demand is.
Okay. So from a customer for you guys perspective, right? So where are your customers like coming from? Do you guys have any sort of, I don't know, I don't think threshold is necessarily the right word, but I mean, do you prefer to work with businesses that are at a certain amount of sales, a certain amount of ARR, anything in that?
Yeah, definitely. So we mainly work with brands that are doing between 5 to 20 million a year online. It doesn't have to be necessarily be on Amazon. It just has to be online in general, because that gives us a really good opportunity to help these brands scale more. They typically have, the advertising budgets that we need. We look to spend between at least 10,000 a month. We spend up to 150,000 to 200,000 for some clients a month. So it really depends on the size of the company. And yeah, that's really it. Most of the brands are North American brands. We do work with some European brands as well. And yeah, that's kind of the type of client that we're working with.
Okay. So I want to pivot a little bit and talk more about you and understand kind of your life journey, your career path. So do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Do you, what made you, I feel like entrepreneurs are a special type of person, right? It's not the life for everyone. So what happened as you were younger that made you even like think that being in business for yourself might be something you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't much. I mean, my parents weren't entrepreneurs. If you look back another generation, my grandparents were. So I don't know, maybe it skips a generation.
Maybe.
But I think it wasn't something I grew up with when I was younger. It really happened like later when I was in college, where I started realizing that I wanted to do something for myself. I think like I'm originally from Connecticut, so we have a lot of finance people around there. And I think that was originally like the field I saw myself going into, was like investment banking or private equity or finance, and ended up in real estate development. So I wasn't that far off. But while I was in college, I worked at a marina during the summer, and everyone bringing in their boats, these massive 60, 70-foot boats, they're all business owners. They all own their own business. They're all successful in construction or manufacturing or whatever the field is. And it kind of made me realize that, like, if you want to, I don't know, have a more comfortable life or whatever you want to call it, like you generally need to be working for yourself. It's very difficult to do that as an employee. Yeah. And that is kind of the first exposure I had to a lot of other entrepreneurs. Okay. And from there, it kind of just stuck with me. While I worked at Deloitte, I realized like I really wasn't enjoying what I was doing because, I was having to work so much. I was reporting to so many people. It was kind of uncomfortable. I moved into the real estate development and Sears, and I enjoyed that a lot more because I really do like real estate. But at the same time, it still had that feeling of like I was working for someone else and I didn't have full control. And then finally, like, we came up with these ideas and we started going this way. And it feels a lot better not having to work for anyone else. It kind of started later in life, and then now it's kind of paying off. So.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, it's always interesting to me to learn where people kind of had that moment where they thought, wait a minute, I could do something for myself, or I could do something different, or they have an idea and then they realize like, oh wait, I can turn this into something if I do these certain things and do them well. So I think that's neat, because it's funny too, because I'm currently doing, I'm in this accelerator group, and one of the things that our instructor was saying recently, she was talking about, if you want to be somewhere, like you need to like already be hanging out with the people that are doing that. And so when you said that about working at the marina and seeing these different big boats coming in and understanding what those people are doing, it's almost like by like osmosis. It's like you're surrounding yourself with that. So now it's like, okay, well, you just naturally start doing things a little bit differently because you're seeing that and you want it, and your subconscious gets to work.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that is really important. The people that you hang out with and the people you spend time around. At this point, like almost, I wouldn't say all, but like most of my friends are, business owners or entrepreneurs. A lot of them are in marketing. A lot of them are in finance and different areas. So like, it is interesting learning from them and like hearing seeing how they approach problems or how they think about things, because it makes you change or think about the way that you're approaching a problem or thinking things. So sometimes there's a different perspective that you can look at a problem and try to come up with a better solution with. And yeah, I think that's one of the awesome things about spending time around other people.
Definitely. So when you look back on your career and, moving from real estate and then diving into this Amazon world, what is one thing that you wish you knew then that you obviously know now after all the experience under your belt?
I think, someone asked me a similar question the other day, and I think the biggest thing is like figuring out self-confidence and decision-making. I think those are the two biggest skills that take time to develop.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're both skills. Like unless you have practice and experience in believing something's correct and then proving it correct and doing it over and over, or making a decision and continuing to make decisions over and over that are leading to either a good or bad result, you're not going to become more comfortable with either of those skills. So once you're kind of on your own, you have to make those decisions. Like there's no one else there to make decisions for you. So it naturally just makes you better and better at those. At this point, like decision making, I probably make like anywhere between 10 to 20 different decisions a day. Whereas like when I was starting, I was maybe making one or two. And when I was an employee, I was probably making none.
Right.
It's just more and more time and more practice, and those skills get better and better. And you become more and more confident in yourself. So I think that's probably one of the things that if I had known earlier, I would have started doing sooner.
No, I love that, because it's funny. I was thinking back on my own career and different versions of myself as I've kind of navigated through life, and thinking about some of the things that I used to absolutely dread doing. And now they've become my most favorite things. And, one of them was networking. I used to hate going to networking events if there was like a broker open house, because I did real estate as well, right? My first job out of college was commercial real estate. I worked for CBRE. And so, there'd be broker open houses and there would be networking events. And I would always just be like, I don't want to go. I hope I have other plans. I hope that there's a reason I can't be there. Because I was so unsure of myself that I was like, well, what am I possibly going to talk to anybody about? And now I'm like, I want to talk to everybody. This is so fun.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely remember those same feelings. I remember being in after parties in New York at the Javits Center, and like all the bars around there that were CRE, and you're around these other people that are either very successful in commercial real estate, they're managing investment funds, they're managing redevelopments, like whatever it is. And you kind of question yourself, like, how did I get here? What am I doing here? Do I have the skills to actually talk to these people? Am I going to sound like an idiot when I talk to these people? And totally. I remember that exact same feeling. But I mean, it just takes practice. Like, you're going to be uncomfortable in anything, but the more comfortable you become, the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to become in it. And I think that's the important thing.
And I think also too, it's important to remember that like so many people are, I'm not going to say like faking it, but like there is a level of just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to be delusionally confident and just go out and be like, all right, here I am. Like, this is what I'm doing. And this is why I'm doing it. And then you kind of get there. And once you have some more experiences, then you can kind of like fall back on them and say like, oh, okay, well, hey, I did this and these were the results. And this is what I learned from it. And I think that's the most important thing of all of this is like, okay, what did you do? What happened? And what did you learn?
For sure. I mean, that delusional confidence can be a very powerful tool. It
Definitely.
can make you believe that you know what you're doing, and it makes you sound like you know what you're doing to other people. So until you're actually at that point where you're comfortable and you feel like you know what you're doing, it's a very powerful tool.
So I read that you guys have about 45 employees, and are you guys all over the world, or are you more North America located, or what does the team look like?
Yeah, so I think we're actually even higher than that now. I think we're close to 70 employees, but we are located all over the world. Everyone works remote. We used to have an office. I live in Mexico. I didn't mention that before.
Which part?
But in Guadalajara.
Oh, okay.
We used to have an office here in Guadalajara, and before COVID, we had about a 12-person office. Then COVID hit, and everyone went to remote. And ever since then, we just haven't gone back to office. Yeah. And since then, we've continued to grow and continue to hire in other places. So most of our employees are Latin American based. So we have team members in Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina. We also have a lot of team members in Europe, in Italy, Romania, Poland, UK. So kind of spread out around the world. And we also have some team members that help with a lot of back office stuff in the Philippines and in India and Pakistan. So
Cool.
yeah, we're really all over the place.
I love that. I think that that's one of my favorite things about the world that we're existing in right now is because our technology is so advanced, we are able to work with people everywhere, and it just broadens like perspectives and, you know, the way people do work and the way we all communicate and get along. I mean, the company I was with, when before COVID hit, we were a company where we were 99% of the employees were local. We were in Sacramento in the office Monday through Friday. COVID hit. We did unfortunately have to do layoffs. And then when we were rebuilding the team again, we were all kind of like, well, wait a minute, we're all still at home. We can open this up to nationwide from, you know, a hiring perspective. And it was fantastic. It changed the dynamic of the company for the better.
For sure. And I think that's very important is like when you're in a local market or you're only hiring in a local market, you're only open to the talent that's within a local market. When you work internationally or even nationally, you access so much more talent, becomes so much more powerful for the company. So like we have had MBAs from, you know, Mexico, from Brazil working for us, and that helps the business grow a lot more because they have a ton of experience. So
totally,
it is really powerful when you're able to tap into the different markets like that when you're hiring employees.
And even culturally, I think that that's one thing that's so, you know, that so many people don't understand right off the bat when working with people from other countries is there's that level of the culture that once you kind of get the hang of that, it makes things so much easier, whether it's, you know, just relationship building, trust building, you know, just figuring little things out about like nuances about the way businesses run. So having those people on your team, I'm sure, you know, helps tremendously as well.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's super helpful. Having different, it's the same thing I said before, having different perspectives helps you approach problems in different ways. And the great thing is that everyone brings different perspectives from their background, from the companies they worked at before. That really helps us figure out what we can do or what direction we want to move in as a company. So it's super powerful.
Yeah, definitely. So if there was a, you know, 23-year-old kid that came up to you and said, "Hey, give me one piece of advice about being an entrepreneur," what would you tell them?
That's a tough one. I mean, I touched on confidence a little bit earlier. I think that's one of the big ones, self-confidence. But another big way to build confidence is just consistency. You know, whatever you're doing, you just have to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over and over until it starts working the way you want. The more consistent you are with something, the more, whether it's, you know, posting content on social media, doing SEO blogs, you know, whatever it may be, the more consistent you are, the more it's going to pay off in the long term. You might not see the return immediately, but you will see the return at some point down the road.
I think that is one of the best pieces of advice that someone has said on this podcast, because I am such a big fan of consistency. I remember I had a roommate years ago, and I've always been very consistent with my fitness routine. And I remember getting up one morning and leaving, going to the gym, and it was a Monday, and he looked at me and he was like, "You are the most consistent Monday morning workout person I have ever known in my life." And I was like, "It's my favorite day of the week to work out." And he was just like, "Oh, you're so annoying." But it was true. But consistency, truly, it is so important.
Yeah. And I mean, consistency doesn't mean that everything is always going to work out. I mean, working out is a very good example as well. Some days you feel it great. Some days you don't feel so great, and the workout's harder, or the workout, you don't put as much effort in, whatever it may be. But as long as you continue to do it, it's just going to keep getting better over time and easier over time.
Absolutely.
And the results are going to compound. So yeah, I mean, that's the biggest benefit of consistency. It's not, you know, 100% perfect every single day, but it's just showing up every day.
Absolutely. So what's next for you guys? What are the next 3-5 years look like?
We'll see. But right now we're really focused on Latin America. The company that we have here on the distribution side, we think is a massive opportunity because the markets in Latin America are really just begging for products from the US and from, you know, foreign countries. And that's a big problem that we're helping a lot of brands solve. So that for us is very exciting. On the AMZ Advisors side, you know, we're excited to keep growing as an agency. One of the other great things that we have is, you know, as we bring in more and more people that are more and more talented, we become more knowledgeable and the service we provide becomes more valuable. So we're looking forward to continue to grow in different areas related to e-commerce and related to Amazon to help us develop more holistic strategies for brands to really launch on the Amazon platform and to manage the platform and get the lowest possible cost per client acquisition and the highest possible return.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm excited to be connected with you and to watch you guys continue to grow and do great things. So thank you so much for being here. Tell everyone how they can connect with you guys and learn more about what you're doing.
For sure. And thank you for having me here again. The best way to get in touch with me is directly at my email, mike@amzadvisors.com. You can also check out our website, amzadvisors.com, and reach out through that platform. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. Those are platforms that I'm all on. So, glad to connect with anyone on any of them.
Right on. Well, thanks so much, Mike. I learned a ton about Amazon and e-commerce, and I definitely have probably some other questions that I'm going to ping you for in the future. And good. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. And, like always, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and we will talk to you next week.